World War II was a global conflict that reshaped the world in ways that are still felt today. It was a war that involved more than 100 million people from over 30 countries, making it one of the most widespread wars in history. The conflict lasted from 1939 to 1945, spanning 6 long and grueling years. During this period, the world witnessed unprecedented levels of destruction and loss. It was the deadliest war in history, with an estimated 40 to 85 million fatalities. These numbers include not only soldiers, but also civilians who suffered immensely due to bombings, massacres, and genocides. The war was fought between 2 main groups of countries, the Allies and the Axis. These alliances were formed based on mutual interests and the desire to either maintain or disrupt the existing world order. The major Allied powers were Great Britain, the United States, the Soviet Union, and China. These nations came together to combat the aggressive, expansionist policies of the Axis powers. The major Axis powers were Germany, Japan, and Italy. Led by authoritarian regimes, these countries sought to expand their territories and influence through military force. The war began when Germany invaded Poland on September 1st, 1939. This aggressive move prompted a swift response from other European nations. Great Britain and France declared war on Germany 2 days later, marking the official start of the conflict. This declaration set the stage for a series of battles and campaigns across Europe and beyond. The United States initially remained neutral, but provided aid to the Allies through programs like the Lend-Lease Act. This act allowed the US to supply military equipment and other resources to Allied nations. However, the US entered the war after Japan attacked Pearl Harbor on December 7, 1941. This surprise attack galvanized American public opinion and led to a full-scale entry into the conflict. World War II was a complex and devastating conflict that had a profound impact on the world. It involved numerous battles, strategies, and turning points that shaped the course of history. It led to the deaths of millions of people, the redrawing of national borders, and the rise of the United States and the Soviet Union as superpowers. These changes set the stage for the Cold War and influenced global politics for decades to come. The war also had a lasting impact on international relations and led to the creation of the United Nations. This organization was established to promote peace and prevent future conflicts on such a devastating scale. In the years leading up to World War II, Japan had become increasingly militaristic. The country was ruled by a group of military leaders who believed that Japan needed to expand its empire in order to be a major world power. Japan had already conquered Manchuria in 1931 and was engaged in a full-scale war with China by 1937. Japan's expansionist policies brought it into conflict with the United States, which had economic interests in Asia. The United States imposed economic sanctions on Japan in an effort to curb its aggression. These sanctions angered Japan's leaders, who felt that the United States was trying to prevent Japan from achieving its rightful place in the world. On December 7, 1941, Japan launched a surprise attack on the US naval base at Pearl Harbor, Hawaii. The attack was intended to cripple the US Pacific Fleet and prevent the United States from interfering with Japan's plans to conquer Southeast Asia. The attack was a major success for Japan, sinking or damaging 18 US warships and destroying over 300 aircraft. The attack on Pearl Harbor was a pivotal moment in World War II. It brought the United States into the war on the side of the Allies and galvanized American public opinion against Japan. The attack also shocked the world and is still remembered as one of the most infamous acts of aggression in history. In the years after World War I, Germany was a nation in turmoil. The country had been defeated and humiliated, and its economy was in ruins. In the midst of this chaos, a new leader emerged, Adolf Hitler. Hitler was the leader of the Nazi Party, a far-right political party that promised to restore Germany to its former glory. Hitler came to power in 1933 and quickly consolidated his hold on the country. He established a totalitarian dictatorship, banned all other political parties, and began to rebuild Germany's military in violation of the Treaty of Versailles. Hitler also began to implement his racist ideology, targeting Jews and other minorities for persecution. Section 5. The alliance between Germany and Japan. Germany and Japan signed the Anti-Comintern Pact in 1936, pledging to cooperate in combating the spread of communism. This pact was a significant step in the formation of the Axis powers, as it laid the groundwork for future military and political collaboration between the two nations. The agreement was primarily aimed at countering the influence of the Soviet Union, which both countries viewed as a major threat to their ambitions. Italy joined the pact the following year, and the three countries became known as the Axis powers. This alliance was not just a military agreement, but also a political statement against the Allied forces. The inclusion of Italy added a new dimension to the pact, making it a tripartite agreement that would shape the geopolitical landscape of the time. The Axis powers were united by their opposition to the Soviet Union and their desire to revise the world order in their favor. They sought to expand their territories and influence, challenging the existing balance of power. This opposition was not just ideological, but also strategic, as they aimed to weaken the Soviet Union's hold on Eastern Europe and Asia. The alliance between Germany and Japan was a marriage of convenience. Despite their different cultures and political systems, they found common ground in their mutual interests. This partnership allowed them to share intelligence, coordinate military strategies, and support each other in various theaters of war. The two countries had different goals and ideologies, but they shared a common enemy in the United States and the Soviet Union. This commonality was enough to bring them together. Despite their differences, their collaboration was marked by joint military operations and coordinated efforts to disrupt Allied supply lines and communications. The alliance would have a profound impact on the course of World War II, as it allowed the Axis powers to coordinate their military actions and pool their resources. This coordination made them a formidable force, capable of launching simultaneous offensives on multiple fronts. Their combined efforts significantly altered the dynamics of the war, making it a truly global conflict. Section 6. America enters the war. The United States entered World War II on December 8, 1941, the day after Japan attacked Pearl Harbor. President Franklin D. Roosevelt asked Congress to declare war on Japan, calling the attack a date which will live in infamy. Congress approved the declaration of war with only one dissenting vote. The United States' entry into the war was a turning point in the conflict. The United States was a major industrial and military power, and its vast resources helped to tip the balance of power in favor of the Allies. The United States played a decisive role in the Allied victories in Europe and the Pacific. Section 7. Winston Churchill, a leader in wartime. Winston Churchill was the Prime Minister of Great Britain during World War II. He was a gifted orator and a skilled strategist who rallied the British people to resist Nazi Germany. Churchill's speeches inspired hope and defiance in a time of great darkness. Churchill worked closely with US President Franklin D. Roosevelt and Soviet leader Joseph Stalin to defeat the Axis powers. He was a key figure in the Allied war effort and played a major role in shaping the post-war world. Churchill's leadership during World War II has cemented his legacy as one of the greatest wartime leaders in history. Section 8. The end of World War II. World War II ended in Europe on May 8, 1945, when Germany surrendered to the Allies. The war in the Pacific ended on September 2, 1945, when Japan surrendered to the Allies after the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The war had a profound impact on the world, leading to the deaths of millions of people and the redrawing of national borders. It also led to the rise of the United States and the Soviet Union as superpowers, which would shape the course of international relations for decades to come. Section 9. The legacy of World War II. World War II was a watershed moment in human history. It reshaped the geopolitical landscape and altered the course of nations. The conflict spanned 6 years, from 1939 to 1945, and involved more than 100 million people from over 30 countries. It was the deadliest war in history and had a profound impact on the world. Cities were reduced to rubble, economies were shattered, and entire populations were displaced. The sheer scale of destruction was unprecedented. The war led to the deaths of millions of people, including soldiers and civilians. The Holocaust, one of the darkest chapters in human history, saw the systematic extermination of 6 million Jews and millions of others. The redrawing of national borders, particularly in Europe and Asia, created new nations and altered existing ones. The Potsdam Conference and other post-war negotiations set the stage for a new world order. The rise of the United States and the Soviet Union as superpowers marked the beginning of a new era. These two nations emerged from the war with unprecedented military and economic strength, setting the stage for the Cold War. The war also had a lasting impact on international relations. It led to the creation of the United Nations, an international organization dedicated to promoting peace and cooperation between nations. The UN aimed to prevent such a devastating conflict from ever happening again. The establishment of the United Nations was a direct response to the horrors of World War II. It provided a platform for dialogue and conflict resolution, fostering a new era of diplomacy. The war also led to the rise of the Cold War, a period of intense rivalry between the United States and the Soviet Union. This era was marked by a nuclear arms race, espionage, and proxy wars around the globe. The legacy of World War II is still felt today as the world continues to grapple with the consequences of this devastating conflict. Modern-day memorials and commemoration events serve as reminders of the sacrifices made and the lessons learned. The war's impact on technology, society, and international relations continues to shape our world.